to free your captive Israel that mourns in lonely exile here until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice, O Israel, to you shall come Emmanuel.
It's nearly midnight when Jesus and his disciples leave the upper room and descend through the streets of the city. They pass the lower pool and exit at the fountain gate. They pass through the valley and ascend the path which will take them to Gethsemane. The road is steep, so they stop to rest. Somewhere within the city walls, we see another man walking, his sandals silent on the cobbled streets. His feet in his sandals are clean, freshly washed by the one he has just betrayed. And that's why he hadn't stayed at the table last night. He couldn't. He just couldn't after what he had seen. That moment when Jesus had looked into his eyes, no, into his soul even. And when he looked back, he had been shocked because he had expected to see hate, but he hadn't. He saw only love. And somehow that made it even harder. You see, Judas had made a decision. It wasn't easy. In fact, he had struggled. There was a voice in his head. It had been speaking to him for days now, ever since he had stood and watched that woman Mary. Oh, she'd been all over Jesus, kissing his feet as if she worshipped the ground he walked on, crying and carrying on. Oh, and Jesus, well, he sat there lapping it up like a king, especially when she poured perfume over him. He loved that, didn't he? I protested, of course. I said, what a waste. That perfume is worth a year's wages. It could have been sold for 300 denarii at least. We could have given that money to the poor. I said it wasn't right. It wasn't fair. And just look at her there, washing his feet with her hair. But Jesus had looked right through me, as if I didn't exist, as if I hadn't even spoken at all. It is a beautiful thing that she has done, he said. That made me angry. I was so angry. Who did he think he was? Who? Oh, yes, the crowds came to hear him preach because he preached with fire. But did he really think he was the Messiah, this man that I used to admire? But the voice had a plan. The voice said, he's only a man, and you could bring him down, this man who thinks he deserves a crown. And I thought, could I? Would I be so bold to do a deal and have him sold? For as a friend, I have sat at his table. So could I really be able to break that vow? But the voice said, don't look at his future. Just think of your now. And so I made my decision. I made my choice, not realizing I was listening to Satan's voice. has been done against God's own Son, and the final encounter of the battle has begun. As they reach the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus looks back at the city of Jerusalem. He sees what the disciples can't. It is here, on the outskirts of Jerusalem, that the battle will end. He sees the staging of Satan, and all hell is breaking loose. Jesus knew it. Jesus knew that before the war was over, he would be taken captive. He knew that before salvation, there would be suffering. He knew that before the throne would come the cup. He knew that before the light of Sunday would come the darkness of Friday. He knew his time had come, and yet his humanity begged to be delivered from what his divinity could see. He fell to the floor, prayed and wept, whilst nearby on the ground the disciples slept. The silence was broken by the sound of soldiers looking for the one they accused of treason, the one that would be hung on a cross for no reason, led by a man who had been his friend, yet now whose kiss would lead to his end. Taken, shaken, kicked and stripped, beaten with sticks, then finally whipped, bruised and accused because he refused to back down even when they pushed that crown upon his head so hard that it bled. Even then he didn't give in because he came to take our sin. His death on the cross was Satan's loss, and his body in pain became our gain, because his sacrifice paid the price for our shame. That day he exchanged it for his name. Yes, we are all far from perfect. Yet when God looked at you, he said, "You are worth it." And so he sent his son to die on a tree so that you and I could be free. He sent his son that we might have connection, no more rejection, because he was accepting to take your place and erase your mistakes, forever no trace, because of his grace. Oh, Judas, what have you done? Did you not realize that was God's own son? Did you not understand that you were part of the plan? That Jesus was not merely a man, but the Lamb? You sold him. You thought you had a hold on him. No, Judas, it was never to be. And look, Judas, they're going to nail him to a tree. And you will be spattered with his innocent blood. They will drag you through the slime and the mud. You're to blame, Judas. Do you feel the shame, Judas? Do you? Look at his face, Judas. His innocent face. Do you wish you could take his place, Judas? Judas, look at yourself. You're a disgrace. When all of earth turned against Jesus, all of heaven turned towards him. They watched as men mocked and scoffed and nailed him to the cross. They watched whilst he suffered and his blood ran red. And they watched when he opened his mouth and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And when he said that, he includes me and you. For God so loved the world, there's no greater love than this, and to give us life, he laid down his. You see, what else could wash away your sin? What else could make you whole again?
My sin, nothing but the blood of Jesus. And what can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And this is all my hope and peace, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Yes, this is all my righteousness, nothing but the blood of Jesus. And oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know. Oh, nothing but the blood of Jesus. No, nothing. There's nothing but your blood. Glory, glory, this I sing. Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And all my praise for this I will bring. Oh, nothing but the blood of Jesus. And oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know. No, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Yes, so precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fountain I know. Oh, nothing but the blood of Jesus.
If you were to stand at the foot of the cross, what would you see? Would you understand who he was, or would you see just a man hung on a tree? If you were to stand now at the foot of the cross, would you understand who Jesus was, or would you scoff? Would you kneel before him, or would you turn away and say, "No, I'll decide another day"? Would your eyes be open, but your heart's still closed? Or would you understand that when he rose, that he took your past and the things you've done that would never measure up to God's perfection? Those things were nailed to the cross with him so that you would be forgiven and set free from your sin. A new future now because of his glory. A chance now to rewrite your story, to begin again, but with knowing him. But that's not the end. It didn't finish there. Because what happened 2,000 years ago was not just history or even a made-up story. It was reality without a finality. Because you see, when Mary arrived at the tomb that was sealed, his death was so fresh and so very real. And yet before her eyes was an empty tomb, and she didn't understand that she would see him soon. She thought he'd been stolen, not realizing he was whole again, because death couldn't hold him and death couldn't own him. And by his stripes we are healed. By his nail-pierced hands we are free. But you know what the best bit is? The best bit is that we have the victory. The power of sin is broken. He has won our freedom. He is the risen King. And that's why, church, we can today sing.
Hallelujah.